This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to look at some viewer work that was sent in today. I want to get right to it because I have in my hands one of the coolest things that I have seen in a long time. This is a book that is put together by a gentleman named Chris Hytha. It was a collaboration between he and Mark Hauser. I'll get to that in a second. This is called High Rises, Art Deco, 100 Spectacular Skyscrapers from the Roaring Twenties to the Great Depression. Now, there's no note in here. Chris has emailed back and forth with me a few times, and he's told me about the project. This is amazing, and Chris, I'm sorry this took me a few months to get to. Give you a little context, I'm going to read you the introduction here, which says, America is where skyscrapers were born. The tall office tower, a machine that makes the land pay, as the pioneering architect Cass Gilbert aptly put it, originated in Chicago and New York in the 1880s and spread to every large city in the United States within a few decades. Their steel frames were a major technological breakthrough that made these tall buildings possible, but the girders supported the walls were rooted in the past. The first skyscrapers were cloaked in architectural motifs, blending classical and Renaissance ornamentation, a style known as Beaux-Arts, after the French school, where most prominent American architects were trained. Then, in the 1920s, something changed. Innovators began to break the old rules. They experimented with new shapes, colors, materials, and designs meant to celebrate the advent of a modern machine age. It was a wildly optimistic moment, one that was brought to a crashing halt by the Great Depression. I'm sure you're already noticing this is a very interesting presentation. These photographs are really cool, and I want to read you a little bit about how they were put together in here. Rather than a single snapshot, each high-rise's image is a composite made up of a series of photos taken by a drone at each floor of the building, usually at sunrise or sunset. They are stitched together manually, eliminating perspective and creating a flattened scan similar to an orthographic architectural elevation drawing. A separate background image is taken at the same location and composited into the frame. Lighting and shadow adjustments finish the visual with a subtle rendering-like quality. This probably won't surprise you that Chris has a background in architecture as well. I think this book is absolutely outstanding. This is an incredibly creative use of drone photography, and it's something that I've not seen anyone do, and I think this is really cool. The second thing I love about this is a collaboration book. Mark Hauser is an expert on the subject, and the graphic design on this book is outstanding, and the way everything comes together. And I want to make a note about this because this is really interesting to me because there's another project that I'm going to share with you in this video today where the same approach is taken. But, you know, I think for 90% of the photographers out there probably watching this, myself included, when we have the itch to make a book and we want to put together work to present, we typically just think of doing it as a portfolio. And, you know, I've done this. We spend so much time with our work, and it's really easy to want to compile that and organize it in such a way. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I really love is when the extra mile is gone, and the way that Chris and Mark collaborated on this book, you've got text involved, you've got an incredible graphic design in here with all the images, the renderings, you've got height comparisons, you've got maps, you've got explanations of Art Deco elements. This is so well put together and so well done, and it gives such a depth to this that there's something in this for the reader. And I think that a book like this, if it had just been a portfolio book, it wouldn't have had that magic and that depth to it. The photos are great, I'm not knocking them, but it gives you a really complete package here, and I think it's something to think about. And Chris, you have done an outstanding job on this. I also know that when you get into this level of detail with not only the graphic design, but the text, it becomes an enormous project to take care of. The traveling alone to get these shots would have been a feat unto itself, and I'm really impressed with the quality that you put into this and the way that it's come out. You should be extremely proud of this. And I also want to make a note here. My home city is featured in here as well. The amount of traveling to get these images is really impressive. Anyway, I mean, they're all over the United States, but this is the Texas and Pacific Rail Terminal, which is an amazing building, and you don't see it from this angle. I know this building extremely well. It may be a mile north of here. I go here all the time because it's also where the current rail is located. There's two lines, one that takes you to Dallas and another one that takes you to the airport, and so I am no stranger to the TMP building. Beautifully done, and it is a beautiful building, and I'm really excited to see it in here. I mean, this is awesome. I highly, highly recommend you guys get this book. It's really entertaining from, you know, this historical and educational perspective, but the drone photography in here is outstanding. When I think of drone photography, I do not think of high-res images like this, and I know there's a little bit of stitching and some manipulation involved to get this look, but it's really impressive. It's detailed. You don't, when you look at this, you don't think drone. In fact, the first time I looked at it, I'm like, how is he getting these? They're consistent. They're really sharp. The quality is incredible. Anyway, I'm going on and on about this because this really is one of the coolest books that I've seen maybe in mail time all the years I've done it. I really think it's that good. Chris, you did an outstanding job on here, and I'll link up to this book if you want to get a copy in the show description below. Highly recommended. Thank you, Chris. I hope you're proud of this, man. This is stellar. All right, so next up is this little zine called Semblance by Tom Healy, and this is kind of special to me as well because Tom was a student in the zine workshop that we did earlier this year, and I remember seeing this project. We did small groups, and we had a really interesting discussion about Tom's work, and I think it's really cool. So it's really special for me to share this with you because now I'm seeing it in its final printed form, which is pretty awesome. And I'm going to read you a little Tom's intro here. He writes, "A need for change. After photographing the natural landscape for a decade, I needed a change in direction. I find that I make more satisfying art when I get outside of my comfort zone, so I decided it was time to do just that. Traditionally, I did not work with a lot of people in photography, but I decided to push myself to start working with models and learn some new skills. Initially, I started working with nudes in natural settings, combined my landscape photography experience, but when the weather turned bad, I retreated indoors, and I got further out of my comfort zone by bringing studio lights into the mix. I began to utilize artificial light on the human body in the same way that I observed the sun falling on land, and found a new passion in my photography. This collection of images features the human body as a mirror for the raw beauty of nature in its purest form. Just as mountains rise and valleys slope, the human form exhibits contours and curves that evoke the natural landscape. Like the changing seasons, the body also undergoes transformations from the smoothness of youth to the weathering of age, echoing the natural world. Photographs in this collection span the last 3 years of my creativity. I hope you enjoy it, Tom." So Tom, well done, my friend. I think this is outstanding. When Tom was in my class and we were talking about this, I was really blown away at the whole idea, not only of the nude as landscape, which was really cool, and he really does treat it like landscapes, but the other thing that I love about this, and I've told Tom about this before also, is that I really love the way that a lot of these images kind of enter that zone of abstraction in that the first time you look at it, like let's say you're seeing it on a wall across the room or you open up this zine, that's a little bit abstract. You don't realize it's the human body straight away because the work is very cropped in and is so defined into line, shape, shadow casting, contrasts. I think this is absolutely outstanding work. And Tom, I've told you this in the workshop, and the only thing I want to add to this is I just want to see you do more of it. I think this is an idea that could easily translate into a portfolio book of work. I think you could do it in a lot of different directions. And man, way to go. This is outstanding, and it's really cool to see it in its final printed form. Anyway, so if you want to check it out, I will link up Tom in the description below. Tom, thank you for sending. It is quite awesome. All right, so we are on a roll today. I've got a couple more projects that I want to share with you, including one that I mentioned to you earlier. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor this week, who are the awesome folks over at Squarespace. How easy is it to build an amazing website in a matter of minutes? Squarespace has you covered. It's dead simple. Head over to Squarespace, hit get started. You can start by using Squarespace Blueprint AI and SEO tools, which will give you an impressive website in no time. Something unique because, you're not like other websites. Give your site a name. Next, you can build your homepage. We'll start with a few preset layouts just to get us going. Want to sell products like prints, books, maybe you make a zine? Well, you can feature those on your homepage. Create a few more sections if you want. Let's also give it a color palette. There's a whole bunch to choose from. Just get us started. We can change this all later. Next, let's select the typography choices. Welcome to your website. Everything is set up and it's all ready for you to customize. Squarespace is built on Fluid Engine, the next generation of website design. Select Edit, and Fluid Engine allows you to drag, place, and resize any element on the page. You can snap these to a grid, you can make them float on top of one another, you can freeform however you like. You can even preview and adjust how the site looks on either desktop or mobile. The layouts are independent. Of course, you'll want a portfolio for your work. Creating an image gallery is as easy as dropping a folder of images on your web browser. Once uploaded, you can drag to resort, customize the look, and Squarespace writes all of the code for you. Everything just works and it looks fabulous. Want to sell your own prints, books, or zines? Flexible payments allow you to make the checkout process absolutely seamless when you sell products or services. You can accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, you can offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. You should try Squarespace for yourself. It's absolutely free, no credit card required. Just go to squarespace.com/AOP, sign up for that free trial. If you decide Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your order by using offer code AOP on checkout. That's right, the code is AOP. So stop procrastinating, go build your website today. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. All right, so next up is this little zine called Infrared Musings. This comes to us from Dean McIntyre. This is also very special to me because Dean also took the zine's workshop, and I saw this in its pre-production phase. And so again, it's really cool to see this as a final form. Anyway, Dean did an awesome job on this. The design on here, I remember making a comment that it had a very mid-century vibe to it, and Dean said it was very inspired, in fact, the whole thing, by the film Asteroid City, for those of you who might have seen it. It's got some really wild color grading, which brings me to the point that Dean does color infrared, which, man, he does it really well, and I want to share this with you. He also included a note which reads, "Hi Ted, I wanted to thank you again for the great zine workshop. I got a lot out of it, including some things I had not anticipated. I just think the act of going over my photographs and compiling them into a zine in the workshop gave me a lot of new perspectives and ideas about my photographic work. I really appreciate your feedback as well as the feedback from others attending the workshop." So Dean, this came out really nice. And I remember when we were going through and discussing this and the pacing and how this would flow in terms of the zine, how it would look, he has a really bold color feel to his work, being color infrared. And it was really interesting to talk about choices that could be made in terms of that and what kind of keeps the reader engaged. I think he also includes a wide range of stuff in here that I really like. Some of these scenes that where you just kind of get blue and white are really pretty to me. I mean, it's kind of got a wintry, cold feel to it. And then they warm up with these bold, crazy colors that he's got going on. So anyway, Dean, this is really nicely done. And check out Dean's work. You can find him on Instagram, and you can probably also buy a copy of this. If you would like, I will put his contact information and all that wonderful stuff in the show description. It is so cool when we do these classes and to see, first of all, the wide range of work that comes in from students. I mean, it is everything from people who do portraits to fashion work to landscapes to more art types of things to infrared photography. It really is a wide range, and to be able to discuss that and see everybody's work in that context has really been special. And when we do these things, and so I'm really excited. We'll have some more that we're going to do next year. We're sold out for the fall. But man, this came out great. I think the cover is outstanding. I love the whole Atomic City vibe to this, and you really did a nice job. So, Dean, well done, my friend. All right, so next up is New York Style as Guided by Locals. This comes to us from Guiseppe Santamaria. Giuseppe also included a note which reads, "To Ted, I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to share my new book with you called New York Style. I'm a street style photographer going for over a decade now, and I wanted to share how I've turned the art of street photography into something a bit more commercial and making a product out of it. I hope you enjoy, Giuseppe. P.S. Keep up the inspiring videos and all the great work that you do." Giuseppe, I think you did an amazing job with this, and I've mentioned this many times on this channel. One of the challenges that you've got with street photography is there's so much of it, and there are a lot of people that do that, and trying to find ways where it's new, it's fresh, it's got something that has a different appeal to it. And I think you've done this very wonderfully. It's a style guide to New York as told by locals, and so you've got restaurant recommendations, photography venues, clubs, restaurants, places to go, things to do. I have been to New York probably 100 times in my career. I have been there many times, and I actually would be very interested in using this as just suggestions of places that I could go when I'm up there. And I love the way that you've gotten locals to do it. You have portraits in here. You've got street photography. This is just really cool. It's very well done. It's very different. And this kind of comes full circle because the first book on the high-rises that we were looking at, as I mentioned, that could have been a portfolio book and it would have been outstanding. But, you know, Chris went the extra mile on that and put all this extra effort into making it something that was just more than a portfolio book. It's hard to do, and I'm sure that you realized this when you got into this project. It is a lot of work. I think the payoff, though, is so much more in the end because, like, you could have an audience for this book. You could even do different editions. I know that a lot of things change in New York. You could do an updated edition, you know, by year or something like that. I wouldn't do it every year. That'd be a lot of work, but you know what I mean. Well done. This is excellent. The design is very well executed on here, and I think this is just, I mean, it's amazing. I love the color reproduction in here, too. You got a really nice look to a lot of these images. So anyway, I want to thank everybody who sent stuff in today. Remember, as always, to support your colleagues. I will put links to everybody in the show description below. If you have any questions or comments, leave those there, too. I will see you guys next time. Until then, later.